All right. We're up and running. All right, guys. Hey, guys, welcome to Creative Entrepreneurship, a podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs build their business based on successes and failures of other entrepreneurs. Today, we're going to be talking about how you can build a blogging site and advance your business. Please help me welcome Chris Miles. How are you doing today?
Hey, what's going on, Abel? Thanks so much for taking the time to have me on. This is going to be exciting. Let's go.
Man, I'm excited to have you on the show. This is one area, one element of business that I think a lot of people neglect. And in looking at blogging and a way to advance your business is a great way for you to actually get the word out. And so I'm excited to really delve into this. This is one of the areas of business that I think me as an entrepreneur, I've done it before. This is one of the ways in which I built a lot of businesses, and incorporating this with Facebook posts and YouTube videos and stuff like that to corroborate my information. And it was just a great way to get my SEO up and get some backlinks and more visibility towards my business. So I think this is going to be a great session. We're going to be able to talk about a lot of stuff that we're going to be helping businesses advance. And I'm really excited. Why don't we start out by getting a little bit of information as to who you are, what you do, and how you help your customers?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Chris Miles. I have a podcast called the Blogger Revolution Podcast. I've been doing this blogging thing since about 2015, but it hasn't always been, peaches and rainbows. When I first got started, it was just me and my wife, and we were just plugging along. We had what we call jobs, or JOBs, or just over broke is what we called them. And we were doing just fine, just to kind of, stay above water when it comes to like debt and income and everything. But eventually we started to around 2016 or so. We found out that we were pregnant with our first son, and my wife expressed to me that she wanted to quit her job. And I remember thinking to myself, like, we can't do that. Like, can't afford it. No way we can just lose, $40,000-$50,000 a month coming into the house. Sorry, a year coming into the house. So I told her no, that we can't do that. That you at least got to do part-time. And I remember she sat me down, looked me square in the eye, and said, "Chris, you need to figure this out." So I had to put on my big boy pants on like pretty quickly. And I went out and started doing what most people do. I went online and Googled how to make money online. And my goodness, that's a cesspool out there, when it comes to that kind of thing. I eventually stumbled across affiliate marketing and blogging specifically. It wasn't easy, but I was able to kind of figure it out and got to the point to where at about 18 months or so of doing it consistently, I was making enough money to have her quit her job. About 2 years later, I quit my job. And now we've been, doing it now. The whole thing was to do it for about a year, just to see what would happen. That was 4 years ago. And here we are still doing this entrepreneurship journey. I get to hang out with my family and son pretty much every day. And that's where we are right now.
Man, blogging, you'd never think that blogging would be a viable option with regard to making a living off writing. And I think it's just the idea that people may not know that it's not just telling your story about, what you do on a daily basis, but maybe writing some articles, something that's conducive towards their business.
Yeah.
How do you approach that? Like, what is the approach for your particular industry that you're blogging? Obviously, you write about blogs and you try to help other people build their blogs up. So is the content geared more towards around that? Is that how you, start your content? Is that how you approach it? And obviously, how do you get your content?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. So the way that you were mentioning before, where sometimes when people think about blog, they're thinking about, oh, they're writing about what they did yesterday or what they had for breakfast and that kind of thing. That type of blogging died in 2010, a long time ago. That type of blogging is officially dead. People will say, oh, blogging is dead. I'm like, yeah, it is when you're like talking about that kind of thing. Nowadays, it's all about what's called meeting the search intent. So if you go to Google, you usually have a question. You ask that question. Hopefully you get the answer right there on the first page. If you don't get the answer on the first page, that's frustrating. And then you got to start digging through websites. You might even click over to page 2 trying to find some random forum or something to hopefully answer the question that you're looking for. That's frustrating for someone who's looking to do something. On Google, that's what they want. They want people to use Google, find the answer they're looking for, and then be satisfied. That way, they'll use Google over and over and over again. And the more
Mhm.
often that they use Google, the more ads that will end up popping up. And the more ads that pop up, the more money that Google makes, right? So it's to Google's best interest to keep people using Google over and over again. So because of that, there are certain ways in which you can write content that will rank higher on Google, on the first page of Google. Most likely, you want to get in that top 3 if you can. That way you can get the most clicks, the most eyeballs onto your brand or whatever question you happen to be answering. And when you're able to do that consistently, there are about 4 billion active users on on Google every single month. So that's a large variety of people. And I mean, everybody uses Google, right? I mean, you don't say, oh, if I have a question, I got to go Yahoo it or I got to go Bing it. Google is its own verb. You say, oh, well, just go Google it, right? It just makes sense. So because there is so many people on there, they are in a ton of different verticals and topics, and they all use Google. If your audience uses Google at all, then you should be blogging. You should be creating a brand on Google so that you can actually start bringing in some people to your site and into your business. Now, what are you supposed to be writing about? Usually you would want to write about stuff that people would normally ask, where your business is the answer, right? So
Mhm.
for an example, if you were in the golf niche or something, right, you might write an article, how to fix your slice or something like that. And if you are creating content on that, you then answer that question nice and directly and specifically, give some good hot tips on how to fix your slice. But then you can strategically in there say, hey, by the way, if you really want to fix not just your slice, but maybe you want to learn how to draw the ball, or you want to do this, or you want to do that, go check out my golf course right here, or something like that. That way you have a nice smooth transition, and the audience there is already decently warm because they are looking for answers to their problems. So as long as your
Mhm.
business fixes a problem, just think about what people are looking for and what problems they're having and what questions they would Google. That way you can show up front and center and be able to answer those questions. Now you're seen as an authority in that space. And because of that, you can now pitch your own products, whether it's affiliate marketing or courses or services that you might be offering.
Man, I love that idea. I mean, I think a good way to approach that might be looking at your frequently asked questions. Like you have most people who have a website, they have a frequently asked questions. Why not go in there, write a blog post about every single question? You know what I mean? Because a lot of
Yeah.
times in the photography industry, so we're looking at people who, okay, what are the best 10 locations to shoot here in San Antonio, Texas? Some of
Yeah.
the questions are, what should I wear when I go on my shoot? And if you have a particular type of shoot, you can actually separate each shoot into different blog posts. So what to wear in on your headshot shoot, how to approach or position yourself when you're looking at the camera, or whatever the case may be. Of course, the photographer is going to direct you, but looking at it from that perspective, at least they go in with some knowledge and some understanding that this person or this business actually wants to help me understand that it's going to be a lot easier if I go into this business, and after reading all this information, or hey, maybe I can approach my photography shoot at this location because they put this post and they have all these locations that they've shot in, and particularly I think you have a good opportunity to showcase some of the photos that you have
Yeah.
in that blog. So you have the opportunity to tell people, or show people that there's certain locations that are conducive to their photo shoot, and then you can showcase the type of photography that you're doing in those locations. I think it's a great opportunity for people to get the word out, and these blog posts, as you said before, giving them the opportunity to be a
Helpful.
authority on
Authority.
the
Yeah.
subject matter. Yeah. And it corroborates what they're trying to tell you. So I mean, it's great. There's I guess there's that aspect of it, looking at it from the service perspective, and there's the opportunity, because I know there's a lot of folks out there, and I'm just using photography as an example because I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. No, that's
so,
fine.
so we're looking at it. I'm looking at it from the photography perspective, but there's a lot of folks out there that may want to know the best 10 locations in San Antonio to shoot, but are not necessarily looking at your service. So they might say, okay, what type of photography equipment did you use? What type of gear are you using? And you can put that in the message itself, so that
Yeah,
when people click on that, they're making some money. So you can make money either way. You can look at it from the perspective of, hey, this is my service. We provide these services. This is the information I'm providing for you. And now if you're not looking at, you're just looking at the information and you want to use it as from the photographer's perspective, here's the equipment that we're using. And you can click on this, and obviously you can negotiate there, or look at certain areas of like Amazon or Adorama, B&H, one of those people
exactly.
that one of those companies that offer a commission for those types of referrals, would you say?
No, yeah, 100%, because it's really important to know who your target audience is. And usually when you have a business, you need to know who you're talking to. There's an old statement out there, I think Meredith Hill or someone said it: if you try to talk to everybody, you end up talking to nobody. So you need to be able to get down who your ideal customer avatar is. Who's your perfect customer? What are they going through in life? What do they want to do? What are their wants and dislikes? What do they watch on TV? What's their favorite magazines? All that kind of stuff. When you know that information about your audience, then you can get into the head of your audience and know what questions they might be asking. So just to kind of piggyback off of what you were just mentioning, someone can say, maybe they haven't really been looking at a photographer, but they're like, man, I want to go take some nice pictures somewhere. They might Google, what are the best photogenic places in San Antonio? Right now, if you wrote a blog post and you're a photographer and you wrote a blog post about the best places in San Antonio to take pictures, all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, that's a good place. That's a good place. Man, I never even thought about these. And then all of a sudden you're like, at the end of that blog post, you write, hey, by the way, if you are looking for any types of, photography services, we are local here in San Antonio. Here's our number, come jump on the calendar or whatever, something like that. And it's a natural transition. Someone who was already looking for places to take a photo, maybe they were going to have their friend come over with their iPhone and just take the pictures, or they can jump on a free call with you and talk about it. And now you, as the business owner, have an opportunity to sell them on your services and go from there. And it all happened pretty much organically or passively. You didn't have to pay ads to get in front of people. You just wrote the blog post and it's there forever, and now, granted, you do have to get it to rank, and there's some tricks that you need to do that. But once it's there and you're in the first, second, or third position, you're going to be getting some pretty high quality leads to your business very consistently.
Now that's going to be one of my other questions, is that where and how do we approach that? Because I've heard that it's best to have a blog post on your website. I've heard it's best to have a blog post on blogger.com or, WordPress or something like that, so that you can get more visibility. Which is your best approach for that?
Yeah, so a traditional blog, I would definitely put it on your site, and whatever content management system you might be using. You just mentioned WordPress. WordPress is the one that I 100% recommend as much as you possibly can, because it's very easy to grow with it. It's very modular, so you can make it look however you want your site to look and do very well with it. Usually a lot of small businesses will go to other places like Wix or Squarespace or something like that to set up their businesses, and they do a very good job at how your site looks, very drag and drop type, deal. It makes it very simple. But when it comes to building a blog, even though they do give you an opportunity to build a blog on your Wix or Squarespace site, it's nowhere near as granular as if you were able to figure it out in WordPress. It is a little bit more of a learning curve, but it's going to grow with you as the blog continues to grow with you. So I definitely recommend WordPress over a lot of these drag and drop opportunities.
So WordPress you can incorporate into your website. Is this is this like a HTML type thing, or because a lot of places like Wix or whoever their domain is with might not offer that, that opportunity. So is there a way to incorporate the WordPress blog into that?
Yeah, for sure. So what you can do is, if you have your site separate, like on a Wix or a Squarespace, just because it's been like that for years and you just like the way that it looks, you could actually create a separate website that contains your blog. So let's just say you had, ablesphotography.com or something, right? And that was your website. You could add a blog to it, but I recommend using WordPress. And WordPress is just a system that keeps track of all of your content. So the blogs, pictures, yada, yada, yada. So as you're creating a blog on your blog, now you can do, blog.ablesphotography.com. And then that'll be a separate, what's called a subdomain of your website. And then when put a blog link on your Wix or Squarespace website, and then just click blog, and it immediately sends them to blog.ablesphotography.com. So that's a great way to integrate it. It will probably be best to keep it all in one place, and I would definitely recommend WordPress to keep it all in one place. But I know sometimes business owners, they have something set up and they like it. And but to be honest, even over the long run, learning and figuring out WordPress is going to end up being cheaper for you over the long run as well. So I would definitely recommend going the WordPress route. But if you did have two separate sites, that's one way you can keep them separate and still have a blog that's growing and sending your business new leads.
Man, that's great. I think, we have a blog that we have integrated with our website, but it's not as user friendly as WordPress. And I think it's more of a website building type of blog. Every time we do a blog post, it feels like it's continually trying to build another web page, which is very cumbersome, it just takes too much time.
Yeah.
And I've used WordPress before where, you just put the information in, you're uploading photos, everything is just like integrated, and it's very simple compared to it. The problem that I've had in the past is integrating the WordPress blog into my regular website. And so you made it very simple. I mean, you're looking like a subdomain, and then just integrating that into your website and having it go to that. So I guess a little bit of research, it can go back and forth to where, it goes back to your web page once they finish downloading or reading. That would be my assumption on how they could get back and forth with regard to the website and the blog. What are some of the, I guess because we talked about creating content, and I know that, looking at frequently asked questions, ways in which people can, you can answer questions that people have about your particular industry. How else do you look for content? Do you look on keywords that are being used on Google so that you can advance your business, your blog, maybe to the top of the list? What are some key elements to really getting eyes? Because you can just write about it and then nobody sees it, but what is the real strategy here on getting eyes on that blog?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because you literally can, like you mentioned, write anything, right? But the idea is, are you writing something that people are looking for, right? And then it can actually advance the business as well, not just writing just to write. Like you mentioned earlier, that type of blogging is dead. If I wanted to write, I'm an Office fan, right? The Office. So if I wanted to write an article, what horse does Dwight Schrute ride, or something like that? There's probably not a ton of content out there, that talks about that. But if I write an article, I'm going to rank number one for it, because probably no one else is writing an article like that, right? So that'll surface up. So the idea there is you want to create content that people are actually looking for. One of the best ways to do that is by using Google itself. And that's what I use 90% of the time to find the type of content that I want to write for any business. Usually I would go to Google, I would type in my topic, my service, my niche, whatever. So example, photography. And then if I'm using photography, I would then, I would type the word photography and then don't hit enter, and just see what Google gives me as autocomplete. They give you like a little bottom, it pops up, and then it'll give you what people are looking for most. These usually are in order of the amount of searches people are looking for each month. So Google is trying to guess what it is you're looking for. And if a lot of people are searching for photography accessories, then that's going to be one of the first things that pops up in that list. Now, a ninja way that you can use to do this as well is to take the cursor before you even hit enter. We haven't even hit enter on the page yet. We're just at google.com. Take the cursor, put it in front of photography, and then type the word how, and then see what pops up. Type the word can I, and see what pops up. So you're going to have like how photography, and then Google is going to autocomplete a whole bunch of questions. You can put should I photography or something like that, Google's going to pop up a whole bunch of questions that say, should I, but then has photography in the question itself.
Mhm.
Then what you do is just click through and see what pops up when you Google these particular questions. When that happens, you can see on the first page what's there, and can you create something that's more helpful? Can you create something that's better than what's already out there? In Google, the best thing is that the cream rises to the top. So if you can create good content and get some authority behind it, then you'll be able to rank for common questions in your space. And now you're going to only have people on your website who are interested in photography, which then allows you to be able to pitch them, products, services. Like you mentioned, affiliates would be an age, or if you have your own service, you can hop on a call with them and try to get them, to buy your stuff.
So this comes to the idea that this takes a long time, and the benefits of doing this, are they greater than just, because what I'm thinking is like, okay, do I take an hour out of my time to create this blog? Because for me, I'm not the best writer. I got to make sure that I do my research, make sure everything that I'm putting out there is correct. How long should this take, to make sure that we have the time to do our business, but also time to create these blog posts that will help our business?
Yeah. So there's this, it takes time to create the content. Usually when you start to create content online, you're looking at, what f-stop should I use or something, just staying with the photography issue. And you write a blog post about that. You might go out there and see that, based on what you see, you might have to put together about 1,000-word article in order to really explain, how to know the difference between what f-stop to use and when. So then you write that article. That article, if you know your topic, your industry, it's probably not going to take you that long to really come up with the article idea and to actually write it. Now the idea is, once you sat there and you've written the content, how long is it going to take for someone to actually find it and then come through to you? That part does take a little bit of time, but it's super, super rewarding and worth it. So just to give you an example, if you were to post that same content on Facebook, it would probably be seen by a little bit of your immediate audience, and it'll probably last maybe a few hours. If you posted it on Twitter or something, it might last 15 minutes, before it's just in the Google, or sorry, not the Google, but the Twitter just cesspool or whatever, right? You might be able to change that blog post into a video, put it on YouTube. On YouTube, it'll stick around for probably 4, 5, or 6 months or more. And if it's a nice, what's called an evergreen topic, something that someone's going to always be asking for 10 years down the line, then you might be able to get consistent traffic from there. When you write that information for a blog, typically the lasting power of a blog is on average of about 2 years. So the amount of time that you put into it, it's going to be a little bit of labor intensive to get it going. But once it's rolling and you're getting consistent traffic to your site, that traffic is hard to stop. And it can last for years as you are creating it. So it is a slow wind up to get it to where it needs to go, but you're not paying for these leads. Google SEO is one of the highest ROI marketing strategies on the planet, because you don't really have to pay much outside of the how much you would pay for your domain and to host your site, and then that's it. You're not giving Mr. Zuckerberg, thousands of dollars just to get in front of the right audience and interrupt what it is they're doing already. Versus if you were to create a blog post, people are searching for you in the first place, so they're already further down that customer buying cycle, that funnel, to where you can nab them and then try to pitch them something to buy. So even though it does take a little bit of time in order to get everything set up, get the articles written, and then wait for them to rank. But once they are ranking, we're talking about free leads to your business all the time.
Do you ever promote them?
Promote them as in like on social networks or whatever?
Well, yeah, I would say, do you throw them out on social media? Do you actually put some sort of money towards the, I guess, maybe a campaign towards it?
It depends on it depends on whether the niche needs it or not, right? I build a lot of niche sites. And when I say niche, I mean like a topic, a small topic that you write about it. So I will create a lot of blogs and don't even really do any type of promotion outside of just letting Google give me content and traffic.
Mhm.
So, but if I'm building a brand, like if I was trying to do a photography service in San Antonio, then yeah, I might put a little bit behind it. And the reasoning for that is because I would want to make sure that there's a tangible way to make money with the lead once they get to my site. If you're just doing it just to get people to your website, that's not good enough. You don't want to just have people see your stuff, because how do you benefit from them seeing it? You know, you might get a little bit from maybe display ads or something, but that's not going to get you a decent amount of money. Now, if you have a service that you're promoting and you're trying to get people on the phone, or you're trying to get people to buy your stuff, then you have a clear line where you're going to make money on the back end. At that point, it is probably justified to go ahead and throw a little bit of money on it, whether it's on social media or Google itself. You know, you can have them promote it, and then that way you can get more eyeballs on your stuff and then increase the chances of you being able to sell something that you are promoting.
You know, I saw something the other day that I thought was a pretty interesting approach. And let's just say you wrote 10 blogs and you see that one or two are doing amazing, like they're getting a lot of views, a lot of people are seeing them, is to go back into those particular posts and build upon those.
Yeah.
Start taking that information and either do like sub blogs of that particular subject, or take that particular blog post and like add video and start incorporating more, I guess, more ways in which it can provide more information.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that would be a solid approach?
That's a very, very viable approach that I actually use. So one strategy that I use is I'll put out there what's called, like, I don't know, I guess you can call it an MVP maybe, and not most valuable player. I mean a minimum viable product or a minimum viable post. And then you just throw it out there. All of a sudden, if it starts to show up on page 2 of Google, you know, while I'm checking it a couple of months later, and I see, okay, Google sees the value that's there, but it may be not good enough to rank on page 1. The beautiful part about blogging is that I can actually go into that blog post, and just like you mentioned, I can update it. I can make it better. I can add more things to it and make it that blockbuster post that deserves to be number 1. You can't do that with YouTube. You know, once you put a video out there, the video is out there. But a blog post, you can go back in and change it as much as you want. So that's normally what I do. I actually write, like, let's just say I have a blog post. Maybe I do the 5 best golf drivers, you know, of 2022 or something. And then, you know, a couple of months later, I go out there and see, oh, it's on page 2. It's getting a little bit of traffic, like, you know, literally a handful of people maybe a day, but that's about it. Now what I'll do, because it's really close, I'll go in there, and instead of doing the 5 best drivers, I'll do the 15 best drivers. And then I'll maybe add a little bit of a story, and maybe even record a video showing me using a few of those drivers, and make it just really this most awesome post. Now, each one of those drivers that I have in that post is going to be an affiliate link to go buy it somewhere, right? So as people land on it, they click and then they go through and buy. Now that I've improved that content, hopefully I can move it from the top of page 2 to the middle of page 1. Now, instead of getting only a handful of people to my site from that one blog post, I could have hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people who are looking for that topic on my site, who are in a position to where they're in a market for buying a driver. So they click on it, and then I go make money that way. So that's how each individual blog post that you put on your site can be responsible for hundreds or even thousands of dollars coming into your business every single month.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Would you use other people's videos to corroborate that, or would you just do your own? Like, for example, if you were doing the drivers, we'll stick with that, you know,
Yeah.
and you were doing like a product review, and you did that right there on camera, and put that up on your video or onto your blog, versus just using somebody else's review. Which would be most beneficial? Obviously, I think it'd probably be better to do your own, but like, would you get the same type of not feedback, but the same type of response?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring that up, because when I first got started with this in 2015, 2016 or so, one of the things that I was doing is doing a lot of blogging, just typing away, getting as many articles onto my sites as I possibly could. Now, after doing that, I also started to supplement those blog posts with a video, and they would mainly just be like screen shares of me showing people how to do stuff, because video is a good way to show Google that your blog post is valuable, because people like videos, and if they land on your blog post and they watch a video, they stay on your website longer. So that's a great thing. So what I realized is when I was taking other people's videos and embedding them on my blog posts, those people were making their videos for a whole nother reason. They want people to buy their stuff. They want people to click on their affiliate links. So can you use other people's videos? 100%. And I'd rather use someone else's video than no video at all in a blog post if you can embed one. But if you can create your own, now you have a blog post that's trying to push people to click on the affiliate links and go buy or sign up for your services and hopefully buy. But you also have the video that's reinforcing that same fact. And when I learned that difference right there, is it's better to create my own content. That's when I started jumping into YouTube as well. And by doing that, the business really started to grow even more exponentially. Now, I say that with the caveat of you don't have to create a YouTube channel in order for your blog to grow, but it helps. It really does help. So can you do it? Yes. Do I recommend it? I recommend at least just shooting your own video. Even if you don't show your face, do a screen share going through it or something like that, and then embed it onto your on your website. That's going to help your SEO. It's going to help people stay on your website longer. It's going to look great in Google's eyes. Plus, you can reinforce the idea of clicking on your stuff and buying your products.
Wow. We've gone through a lot of information. We're getting close to the end of the podcast. Honestly, I could talk to you all day long about this. I just want to ask one more question.
Yeah.
Can you're doing this full time, you're doing blogging full time. What type of income, what's a potential income for this? Like if you were just doing blogging.
Yeah. So,
are we looking at 6 figures?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Are we looking at 6 figures for something like this?
Oh, or more, depending on how much you put into it. I liken, we're building a business, right? And when you realize that your blog is a business in itself, then, the sky's really the limit, with how much revenue that you can generate. Because there's no, remember earlier, we were talking about it. I think Google has around 3.7 or so billion active users every single month. And if you remember the old Kevin Kelly quote that says the 1,000 true fans theory, where if you could find a way to make $100 off of 1,000 people, that's a 6-figure income right there. So if there's literally, almost 4 billion people with a B now who use the internet and use Google consistently, and you only need about 1,000 of them to make a full-time income, all of a sudden the number doesn't seem too difficult to do. I remember with my YouTube channel specifically, I was already making a full-time income before I had even made it to around 3,500 or so subscribers. That's you see other people out there with millions and millions of subscribers, but because it's not monetized well, they're broke. They're not making enough money with it. So if you have your own services, you have your own products, you're using my favorite way to make money, which is affiliate marketing, you can earn a full-time income, in maybe 8 months to 2 years, depending on how much time you're able to put into it. With my personal experience, I did it within about 18 months, and I was able to have my wife quit her job. So 18 months of consistent effort turned into more than a full-time income for us to be able to change our life.
You learned it yourself?
Okay, so I tried to learn it myself and I failed. I did a couple of things. I found this guy online who claimed he knew everything, and I was just following him as closely as I possibly could. And my website ended up getting taken down from Google. So don't do that. So what I ended up doing was I did eventually get a training course that showed step-by-step how to do it. And the rest is history from there. The training at the time, I think it was like $19, but at the time that was hard for me because I didn't really have the understanding of how to invest in myself. And after I went ahead and got through that whole process and I started with it, that $19 investment that I've made has million X since then, and that's really good. So yeah, I didn't learn it all on my own, but a lot of, just listening to podcasts, trying it out myself was big, and just seeing what works and what doesn't. But then getting some people that you trust in the industry, who are interacting with you and know what they're talking about and then copying their results was really big and beneficial for me.
Man, like I said, I could talk to you all day long about this, but we're getting close to the end of the podcast. And I usually like to ask guests if they have any words of wisdom or some rules that they live by. Do you have any of those?
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings is do something now that your future self will thank you for. So whatever you're doing right now, and you might be on the fence as to whether you should try it, depending on how risk averse you actually are, I'm not saying be irresponsible and just quit your job tomorrow. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying do something now so that maybe a year from now you can look back at it and think, you know what, I'm glad I tried. Even if it was unsuccessful, you now know, you're a smarter person for it. So fail forward. If you aren't going to do it the right way, just do it, see what happens. That way, the next time you do it, you can hopefully do it the right way. So do something now that your future self will thank you for.
And I love that. I love that. In fact, I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, man, if I was younger, and I was thinking to myself, if I could go back in time, what would I tell myself? And I was like, man, there's so many things that I would have just done different. It's nice to hear that coming from you. How can our listeners get hold of you, man?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely check out the podcast, Blogger Evolution. So just search for it and subscribe. Or you can check out me on the website, bloggerevolution.com. And those are really the best ways that you can get in contact with me.
Awesome. Well, there you go, guys. Chris Miles, be sure and check out his blog or check out his podcast. And all of his information is going to be in the show notes. Check that out as well. Check out creativeentrpreneurship.net, creativeentrpreneurship.net for all of our articles. Check out TCE Podcast for all of our social media and subscriptions, tcepodcast.net for all of our social media. Be sure and check that out. And until next week, guys, keep on keeping on.